Welcome to TSW. Today we're going to discuss about what makes a quality wheel. We often talk about quality products and quality wheels, but what we want to talk about today is the actual things that make a wheel a quality wheel. So we're going to start with a couple of the basics. So this is a new wheel from TSW that we'll be launching at the SEMA show. But to really understand quality, we actually have to look at the back of the wheel. So we'll start by turning it around. And the first thing we're going to talk about is run out. And where you measure run out is up top here where the tire seats on the wheel. And what run out is it makes sure that the wheel is perfectly round. If the wheel is not perfectly round, you're going to feel the vibration coming through your tire. So every single wheel that we manufacture, we test for run out to make sure that it meets our tolerances. And then the next thing is hub centricity. Hub centricity is over here. It's actually measured right in the center of the wheel. This is the part of the wheel that actually locates on the vehicle. The bolts of the wheel are really there just to hold the wheel on the vehicle. But in terms of your ride, what really matters is the hub centricity of the wheel. So there's two ways to get it. You either machine the wheel to match the exact spec of the vehicle, or you put a hub-centric ring in there. So long as the wheel's designed to take a hub-centric ring, that'll make the wheel locate on the vehicle. And then it gets bolted on. The next thing is the actual balance of the wheel. And the way balance works as opposed to run out is when the wheel is manufactured, you're obviously pouring a lot of aluminum into the mold. And let's say too much aluminum gathers on this part of the wheel. What will happen is the wheel will not balance. So when you go to fit your wheels and tires, every single set of wheels and tires that ever goes in your vehicle will get balanced out at the installation. And if it doesn't balance, they add a bit of weight on. That's fairly typical, but there's a limit to how much weight you want to put onto the vehicle. So there's tolerances for run out and there's tolerances for balance. And they're two different things. Those are the most evident things that you will see as a consumer, and those will be things that you'll be able to notice when you actually go and buy your product. The other things that you will not see are things like the tensile strength of the aluminum. The way wheels are designed, under an impact, they're meant to actually bend before they break. You don't want them to be very brittle so that they shatter if under an impact, because that's when the tire will lose all your air pressure and you'll have other ramifications. So you want the wheel to bend. So there's a certain tensile strength you want the aluminum to be. The other things are things like the grain structure of the aluminum. Like in a TSW flow-formed wheel, when the wheel is flow-formed, what actually happens is it gets pressed in a roll and it changes the grain structure of the aluminum to make it stronger. Then there are things like porosity. When the aluminum is poured in the mold, it can have air bubbles in it. If those air bubbles are too big, let's say there's an air bubble in a spoke over here, that air bubble is what will cause the spoke to crack, or can cause the spoke to crack. But often an air bubble will be the start of a cracked spoke. You shouldn't visibly be able to see any porosity on the surface of the wheel. The porosity is often hidden and is usually found through an X-ray. So the other things that will be very evident to you and that are very obvious is the finish of the wheel. If you look, say, at the back of the wheel, you don't want to see any mold flashings or markings from the mold. It should be fairly clean like this wheel is over here. And then the obvious ones on the face of the wheel, the paint finishes. There's several different paint finishes that exist today. Actually, there's become a proliferation of paint finishes. But those will be fairly obvious. You can look at the paint finish on the wheel and see if there are any issues. If we look at this wheel over here, we've got a mirror cut lip, very shiny paint finish, and we've got a gloss black center. There's several things with paint that are done. Things like an adhesion test to make sure that the paint adheres to the surface of the aluminum. There are other things like a salt spray test to make sure that there's no corrosion coming through. But those will come out over time. What you will notice when you buy the wheel is the paint finish when you buy it. So those are the things to look for in a quality wheel. But probably one of the most important things is the fit of the wheel, to see how the wheel fits on your vehicle. There are several aspects about it that are very important. Obviously, the PCD, which is the bolt circle diameter and the amount of bolts, is critical. If that's not exactly correct for your vehicle, it should never be on your vehicle. Then there are things like the offset, how much the wheel will stick in or out of your vehicle. And that is also very important, because if the offset's too low and the wheels are sticking out too far, you're going to have things like a bump steer where you go over a bump and the vehicle will want to veer off to the side. The width of the wheel as it relates to the tire is also important. But that's very important when you go and buy a set of wheels, whichever set they are, that you're getting the right fit on your vehicle. So just a few pointers for today. Hope that's helpful, and thank you for joining us.